Hello, this is the Harboring Light. I'm Mary. I give a conservative perspective about the world around me. Feedback is immensely important. Feel free to reach out. 2 ways you can do that: email and YouTube. And as I said, with advertisement, you can hear my ad on Paramount Plus. You hear an ad about the Harboring Light. That's me promoting my podcast, my show. And then auditorily, you can hear it. And you can also hear my voice auditorily, and it's through a lot of different app streams, podcasts, so you can hear me that way. All right, so some of the audio platforms that I'm on a lot of them, so it won't be hard to find me. So the topic of choice is spring rolls. Let's get into it. All right, so spring rolls. Spring rolls, I think they're quite tempting and tasting. They can be created either with a rice wrap, and you can clear and you can see the food inside, or fried, or what have you. But spring, why is it spring associated with that? And I can't stress enough, when I was talking about food, as far as focusing on all of you fine folks on Fridays in the past, I just wanted to emphasize how food in itself is really a great reflection of the culture. And it's an easy gap to, pun intended, sink yourself into it. Because, most of the time, food is something that is very appeasing. People aren't going to be, remiss about it. No, but that's interesting too in itself, because sometimes when it comes to food and its intake and its thought process and how people feel about it from a cultural perspective, it might be a different light to it. So what do I mean by that? So for instance, let's say you typically, from a cultural point of view, a negative stereotypical point of view, for the aspects of eating junk, or eating very enriched foods that are not good for you. And so when it comes to opening your palate and trying new cuisine, that person might be opposed to it. Whereas, and then also with the aspects of how you prepare something, that goes a long way, because something that might be off-putting to standard individual, if you season it right, you can draw them in. So the fact of a item being associated with spring, and spring is typically, when you think about spring and the symbolism and the meaning behind spring, is rebirth. So let's figure out and see why that spring is associated with this particular item of food choice. Okay, so with this said here, going to get into the facts. All right, so spring rolls are one of the most popular snacks worldwide and beloved appetizer choice. They are enjoyed in their traditional form and in different varieties that the fusion of cultures has brought to life. Now, the type of wrapper, filling, cooking method, and the sauces, it depends on, if I'm not mistaken, but I'm going to see what they say. The region and the sect or the different type of Asian continent. So, Vietnamese versus Chinese versus all of that. All right, so the type of wrapper, filling with cooking oil and sauces served with spring rolls. All that varieties are based on the culture and the region, as I said, they belong to. So the only thing that does not change is the people's love for the spring rolls. So, the origin and history of spring rolls. Now it says, while the origin of spring rolls is not well recorded, it is believed that the concept existed in China from before the Tang Dynasty, which was from 618 AD to 907 AD. Now, at the time, it wasn't in its current shape, but rather more of a pancake that loosely wrapped special vegetables and fruits to celebrate the advent, or you could say achievement of spring. Because that in itself, when you reflect onto it, spring is, and it can, look at it from an agricultural point of view, an achievement, because you got through the harsh winter, and now, as a nature's gift or a reward, spring is in season to revive everything. All right, so during the Tang Dynasty, the spring dish became a favorite among the rich, who made additions to its fillings. It was no longer about carrots and celery used by the common folk. And see, that's quite interesting because I mentioned this before when I was talking about culinary cuisines. A good example of this is, when the Industrial Revolution was going about. And that was a good segue for people to get influx with all kinds of food from all kinds of cultural regions and backgrounds. And particularly, when you get into when New York territory up north, and then going slowly around south and so forth, and different workers working in steel mills, working all kinds of stuff. It was just quick, fast, and easy, and it was a good way for people to just be introduced to their way of eating. And so here, I can, fully understand that. And that's quite interesting because that in itself is how people understand, quite simply, other traditions and all of that. All right, so it was a dish beloved by the common folk and the elite alike, and even featured as a pastry at the Manchu Han Imperial Feast, so the legendary Chinese banquet. So today, the spring roll is the signature food of the Spring Festival. It is in a circular shape and golden colors, resembling gold bars, or cylinder, to be exact. So, a symbol of wealth and prosperity, making it an iconic Chinese snack. But it is far from being just a seasonal Chinese delicacy. It has spread all around the globe as a symbol of cultural identity. So you can find it in Chinese, Vietnamese, and South Asian cuisines as a popular appetizer or a dim sum, with tasty and fun regional varieties. Spring roll versus summer rolls. What is the difference behind this? So the confusion between spring rolls and summer rolls is very common. However, summer rolls hail from Vietnam And unlike spring rolls, they are never cooked and served cold or at room temperature. They use rice paper to wrap fillings made from rice vermicelli. So fresh veggies, raw shrimp, or pork. Traditionally, they are served with hoisin or peanut dipping sauce. And Vietnamese summer rolls are also referred to as salad rolls. So this entails rice paper rolls or fresh spring rolls, and are locally known. I'm gonna do my best to try to pronounce it. So go Konyon. So spring rolls, on the other hand, may use rice paper wrapper, but are usually prepared with a pasty dough stuffed with meat, vegetables, and vegetable-based fillings, and are always cooked most deep fried until golden and crispy. All right, so you may see many regional varieties of summer and spring rolls across the Far East. Some have a dual character too. They are served uncooked like Vietnamese summer rolls and deep fried like Chinese spring rolls. For instance, the po ai can be deep fried or eaten cold, depending on the region. It's thin paper like crepe, and it's made from wheat flour and rolls and an assortment of fresh, dried, or cooked ingredients. It is served with a sweet sauce, and the lumpai is another example of a summer kum spring roll. So the paper-thin wrapper roll is sweet and savory filling, and it is deep fried or served fresh with peanut-based sauces. All right, so fried spring rolls, popular and cultural varieties. Okay, so the ambiguous and popular fried spring roll might have originated in China, but it is now a worldwide favorite. Its cultural varieties present an exciting universe of flavors waiting to be explored. All right, so the Chinese Chong Wang. So fried Chinese spring rolls are thin wheat paper flour wrappers filled with vegetables such as cabbage, carrots, onions, etc. So meat-based Chong Wang are usually filled with pork, chicken, or seafood. So the Chinese use many sauces to serve with these fried spring rolls, sweet and sour soy, and with chili garlic, and others. All right, moving on to the Japanese hiromaki. So hiromaki is a Japanese version of spring rolls made with different filling based on local ingredients. So common filling includes shiitake mushrooms, very good, like those, very good, shrimp, chicken, glass noodles, bamboo shoots, carrots, etc. So deep fried until golden brown. The hiromaki is served with soy sauce, rice vinegar, or the karanashi mustard. All right, so Vietnamese version of the spring roll. So it's also known as the egg roll. So the spring roll is used with rice paper that gets nice and very crispy when fried. So the filling is based on seasoned ground meat, vermicelli, and veggies. So the Vietnamese serve this with spring rolls wrapped in lettuce with fish-based sauce and raw vegetables. So the Thai Pai Tod. So the Po Pai Tod is the Thai version of the fried spring roll and is used with ground pork or shrimp or of meat-based fillings. So vegetables like cabbage, carrots, beans, sprouts, etc. and glass noodles. So the ingredients are sauteed in light oil until ready to roll in the wrapper and deep fried. So Po Pai Tod is usually served with sweet and chili sauces. Very savory. Nice. I'm getting hungry just reading all of this here. Alright, so the Cambodian Nang Ching. So the Cambodian version of spring roll is lighter than its Chinese counterpart, but it uses uncooked ingredients as the filling. It also uses fish sauce instead of the common soy sauce or oyster sauce, which adds a layer and to complexities of it. So the Indonesian version, the risi sauce. So the Indonesian take on spring rolls is typically featured as a creamy filling of minced meat or fish and a thin crepe-like wrapper coated with breadcrumbs for more texture. The creamy inside constraints with the crunchy outside, making it everyone's favorite. Risoles are best served with spicy dip or mustard. All right, so the South Asian spring roll. South Asian, so we get into India here, and they're going along the lines of India and Pakistan. Spring rolls are a popular snack food. The wrapper, known as the roll patahi, is made of wheat flour rolled into thin sheets. So the rolls are usually filled with cabbage, chicken, carrots, and eggs mixed with spices. So the pantaras are the Indian version of the spring roll. And they wrap it with a chicken and tamarind filling and a super crispy exterior. So the American spring roll. Egg roll, that is, not spring roll. All right, so it's quite interesting because chop suey is an American, version of passing it on as an Asian dish out of understanding and culinary nod to, the Asian influence in American culture. So the quintessential American Chinese food is made with a wrapper of wheat and eggs. And I mentioned, all of this is started out in New York. It's quite credited with the aspects of being the bedrock of culture, especially when you get into the earlier part of the 20th century when everyone was coming to Ellis Island. And, a little before then, you get into the end of the 18th century, crossing over, coming on, and starting new beginnings of their lives, and all the rich, traditional stories of hardships, but coming to a land of prosperity and really pulling yourself up by the bootstrap, and, making things work for yourself. And it's very inspiring. And it's just sad to say that, these things and these traditions are getting faded out in the crowd because people are not understanding, forgetting in the aspects of the tradition of, how to think about immigration, which shouldn't be such of a, hot button issue, but it is. But, preserve and protect, and there's nothing wrong with wanting to preserve and protect and not, have, and only wanting and allowing the right type of people from other countries to come in and only enrich American culture instead of, segregate or deteriorate American culture. And I don't know. And that's just something. So, as I mentioned, New York really started all this with influencing culinary and getting the culinary influence from many different cultures. All right, so hence its name. So some believe. Now, NYC claims to be its birthplace. So the traditional thick egg roll was different, and it was made without bamboo shoots, pork, shrimp, mince, scallions, etc. But its takeout version is a tad simpler. It is made with cabbage, carrots, meats, etc. So egg rolls are served with sweet and sour sauce, or soy sauce, duck sauce, or hot mustard. So the Aussie chicky roll. That's very funny sounding, and its name is a spring roll for Australia. So it was created by Frankie McEnroe in 1958, and it was created as a thicker spring roll to hold up during football matches. And so that's quite interesting because, sports and so forth, things of this nature, they were the necessary platform or breeding ground for innovation. And here we go with how that worked out with snack foods for hungry fans. Alright, so the wrapper is a thick pastry tube made with egg and flour, with a crunchy exterior and a doughy interior. And the filling is an interesting mix of cabbage, barley, carrots, green beans, celery, onion, wheat, celery, and beef. There is a vegetarian version of the chicken roll as well. Alright, so spring rolls in Europe. So across Europe, we can find an exciting variety of spring rolls with unique names. Their shapes also vary depending on occasional and local ingredients. So you might find them in Western and Central Europe and across Scandinavia. The British take on spring rolls as the popular pancake roll. I'll be right back. Hold on. Alright, so sorry about that. So the British take on spring rolls and its popular pancake roll with meat and vegetable based fillings. Spring rolls in Latin America. Okay, I'll be right back. Sorry. Alright, so spring rolls in Latin America. And in Latin America, the spring roll have a similar story. You can see them. In Brazil, Chile, Costa Rica, Mexico, Argentina, Uruguay, and Venezuela. They come up with different names and they have adapted to local tastes. So the wrappers and fillings also vary from other places and to place among them. Alright, so I'm going to wrap up and end out by saying these things. Hear what they said. So the story of the spring roll reflects the beauty of food culture, which is what I was saying previously. It's about how a tiny, humble snack that marked the advent of spring in ancient China evolved into such a diverse popular food and item that has trotted the globe. So how different people and cultures helped shape it. Numerous regional varieties, of which only the most popular have been discussed in this article. So, like the journey of food, such as the kebab and the samosa, the spring roll symbolizes how food connects people across the centuries and continents. And that's quite true. Because as I said, food, when it's really good and it's, simple, people have admiration for it and they want to show respect by placing their own culture and their own flavor into it. And then, that's how you grow and then come together and connect through food and understand each other's cultures simply by just good dishes. Food for thought. Alright, so with this said, I'm ending this segment here. And I'd like to know what you think. Please feel free to email me or fill up the comments on YouTube. It's greatly appreciated. Alright, so this reaches the end of the Harvard Night. Tune in, turn up, and definitely take care. Bye-bye for now.